My biggest, most expensive mistake ever as a real estate investor was
I just clicked and I said, you know what, man, I'm better than this guy.
your clients are your friends who have like little peeks into your personal life.
What are you telling your clients now in terms of, real estate investing?
It's actually a tool that you can leverage into, greater and greater wealth for yourself.
I want the public to know about this, that people are pretending to be your escrow officer.
Right. I call the webinar series Home Buying in the Apocalypse.
I did see that you just got paid by Facebook.
Oh, yeah.
So you just got that check. What was that video?
He wrote BRRRR, which is buy, renovate, rent, and refinance.
To have an asset instead of just kind of hanging out with your money.
Exactly.
One of the smartest guys I know, actually, Richard Wayland. Richard Wayland, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Andrew, for having me here.
I'm in the real estate and the real estate of mine.
I want to introduce to you guys a special guest. We have the owner, operator of Imagination Brokerage here in the beautiful city of Santa Ana, California. One of the smartest guys I know, actually, Richard Wayland. Richard Wayland, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Andrew, for having me here. Yeah, one of the real pleasures of getting more into social media over the past couple of years has been reconnecting with a bunch of old friends. I would, if not for how many I hesitate to even say how many hours I've spent on Facebook over the last couple of years, right?
Yeah.
And one of the best side effects of that is I've gotten back in touch with so many friends from high school.
All right.
You and I haven't seen each other in 20 years.
I would say maybe 18. All right, what year is it? Whatever. I don't want to think about it. No. So, I don't want to go back that far, man. I don't want to think about it.
It's 2024 now, and we graduated from high school in 2004.
Right.
So.
Yeah. I don't want to think about it. Right. So we're gonna go. But it has. No, you're right. It has been a long time, and we have. But through social media, I feel like there's a connection there still. Obviously, you see the videos and your voice, and I know it's not the same, but it helps a lot. Let's just say that.
It does. Yeah, exactly. No, feeling that continued sense of connection with people, which is the whole point of social media these days, right? Like even if you are a brand or trying to be a brand, trying to market and promote yourself, you're still trying to genuinely create this environment where you are genuinely keeping in touch with people. All of your clients are your friends who have like little peeks into your personal life, and you have little peeks into their personal lives.
Of course.
It's really no longer kind of a very passive arm's length thing. Like business today is intimate. It is, close relationships.
It is. And like I was telling you before, people do business with people that they like on a personal level. It becomes a business level. Yeah. So anyway, we'll get right into things. We'll get into the Richard Wayland story first. We'll do that. Then we'll get into, again, your story, your brokerage.
Sure, yeah.
And then we'll talk a little bit about the business in general. So let's just talk again. Let's just start a little bit with your story.
Okay.
As they just said, or as you just said, we went to high school together. But for the audience that doesn't know you, where are you from? Where did you grow up? And how did you end up in Orange County?
Sure. Yeah. I was born in Ohio, but moved to Southern California at a very early age when I was like 3 years old. And so I'm mostly a Californian kid, and then my parents kind of lived that typical like Chinese immigrant path of moving from Alhambra out to like, Roland Heights and Diamond Bar, and then to Chino Hills and Chino. And, so you and I met right during that time period when Chino Hills was just getting this huge influx of just all sorts of kind of new middle class, new upper middle class, a lot of immigrants. We had such a diverse high school, so many people, from all different parts of the world. So it really gave me a sense of perspective that I didn't realize how unique it was at the time. And, and then there's certain things culturally that kind of all these first generation immigrants all share. Like everyone's super hardworking. Everybody really appreciates the value of work and the value of making decisions sort of from a financially strategic perspective, where you move, where you go, what you buy, those sorts of things. I didn't realize at the time that the way my parents bought houses, always thinking about, okay, we're going to be here for a few years, build up equity, and then move on to a better neighborhood, better neighborhood, bigger house, that sort of thing. That ended up being a huge influence on my life as I later ended up becoming a real estate agent and started buying houses for myself. And the way that I guide my clients is very long-term investment focused.
That's good, man. Good focused on your clients. I mean, yeah, that's one of the big things in the business right now, that you want to be, like we were just talking about, being intimate with your clients. So, and I know that, obviously after high school and college, one of your big dreams was to open up a restaurant.
Yeah.
So if you can, take us down that path, how did you, obviously we know that, you're operating Imagination Brokerage now,
right,
but
yeah.
What is the restaurant business like?
Sure. Yeah, I skipped ahead a little bit. I apologize. Though I guess you can see how, all of my previous careers, all my previous dreams, all the different parts of my background have all led to where I am today and the way that I do what I do today. So when I was in college, I always dreamed of being cool. Let's be honest. I was a big nerd in high school.
Okay.
You were more cool than me. You were.
We're not gonna go down there, but yeah, yeah. Cool is such a, I don't know, man. That's just a. I'm so beyond that now, basically. But I know what you meant. But were you like a valedictorian or something?
I was popular in the sense that, I was famous for being really smart in high school.
You were, and you were no, but just you. I don't know if you were. Actually, I remember you were not the valedictorian, but you were up there, right?
Yeah.
This is a high school.
I don't want to get too much into it.
Yeah.
Long story short, I was like famous for my SAT score of 1590.
Yeah.
I remember.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. That's borderline genius. I mean, actually, you didn't even talk. Where'd you go to college?
So I went to USC.
Okay.
And majored in entrepreneurship there. And because one of the things that I wanted to kind of tap into was my favorite parts of high school were actually the clubs that I helped to kind of organize and lead. Like I ran the literary magazine, president of the debate club, competed in academic Olympiad, and I was always drawn most to any sort of situation where a group of people had to kind of get scrappy and creative and try to, do something, accomplish something, put something out there, no matter what,
right.
And that naturally drew me to entrepreneurship. There's just a certain scrappiness, a certain kind of can-do, creative, make it happen no matter what attitude that just really attracted me to that field. And also along the way, as I said, I really wanted to be cool, so I wanted to open bars and nightclubs.
Cool, hell yeah.
Be the one with the clipboard, telling people who was on or not on the list. And
that's a completely different field, though, man. Restaurants, bars, nightlife. It's a tough business. It's a scrappy business, the word you were using.
Yeah.
But also, you were just talking about being in groups, and obviously you're in a group now with your brokerage. Yeah. But yeah, it seems like one of your passions is kind of bringing people together.
Yes. Absolutely.
Is that what happened in the restaurant business, kind of?
Absolutely. Yeah. Essentially, I tried to do a few projects, one or two things didn't work out over here, a couple of things over there did work out, ended up finding this really just awesome little company called Stout, where it was actually, so the owners, the main owners of Stout were lawyers, and I hired them to be my attorneys on a previous nightclub project that ended up not working out. But we all liked each other so much that they then brought me onto this little gourmet burgers and beers restaurant in Hollywood that ended up becoming probably one of the most successful restaurants per square foot in the entire city. That the amount of volume we did out of just a 2,000 square foot space,
Can we say the name?
Yeah. Well, so you would you guys might not understand this unless you work in the restaurant industry, but to make over $200,000 a month gross out of a 2,000 square foot
that's a lot.
Burger and beer restaurant is a lot.
You have dining too?
We didn't have full liquor either. It was just gourmet beers. And so, we're sitting there selling 400 burgers a night on a Friday or Saturday night, in a place where, at least at first, our office was a little loft that we had sort of secretly built an office into on top of the kitchen. And
okay, cool.
It was
a place to work, at
so
least.
Scrappy,
yeah.
so just kind of down and to the bare bones minimum, and we did really well. We ended up building 2 more locations of that, one in Studio City and one in Santa Monica, and since I left the company, they've also expanded out of state as well. You know, that was like my first introduction to like a real high volume, really successful restaurant business. And I think by the end of it, after kind of staying up till 5 a.m. 5 days a week, just working so hard for about 5 years, and I think in that entire time, I went on a bunch of first dates, but like not a single second date, right?
Okay.
Like, just didn't have any, like basically, you know, like dating is so hard when you're like, hey, I'm free on Mondays and Tuesdays from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m.
Right.
Like, you know,
a small little window.
And I was looking at my peers in that industry who were finally settling down and getting married in their 40s.
Yeah.
And I just thought, I don't know. I just don't think that's really for me right now. So I started looking for a new path. And
Well, how did you leave that business, or what happened to end that business? Or?
Sure. Well, I mean, so along the way, I started really. So I was helping to do a lot of the like lease negotiations and build outs and things like that. Our company also did consult with other companies, so I got to be exposed to opening a lot of different types of restaurants and retail businesses. And so I really fell in love with the real estate side of it. And around the same time, I was like buying a house, and so I kind of saw that side of real estate. So I thought, you know what, I'm just going to get a real estate license. Don't know what I'm going to do with it, but just going to try it out. And then at some point, there was a little bit of drama at work, and I still remember kind of the distinct feeling, like the I'm going to leave and do something else, was I had a big birthday party at the restaurant. And I was so busy, there was some crazy thing that happened. We had a break-in the night before.
Oh, no.
And I was just so busy dealing with stuff.
Right.
I couldn't make it to my own birthday party that was happening downstairs.
Oh, this was your birthday
It was
party.
my birthday party.
Oh.
I had like 30 friends downstairs in my restaurant, and I only saw them for about 10 minutes during like the few hours.
Well, you were dealing with the paperwork from the break-in, basically?
Yeah, like, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
Taking all care, like my behavior, because like that was as much my fault as it was like the fault of the job, right? Like I was overcommitting myself. I was not taking any breaks. I was just like going down this path of thinking that, if I just kept working harder, that things would work out eventually, and then I have my own place and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so by the time that I kind of had that thing happen, that birthday party kind of showed me kind of a picture of my future that I didn't like. And, meanwhile, I was looking at real estate agents who have a very flexible lifestyle, very flexible time. Even when they're working really hard and making a lot of money, they still have almost complete control over their own schedules. And then also that was kind of my first exposure to real estate agents being just... There's a lot of real estate agents out there that are very friendly and charismatic, but not very smart.
Right.
And you notice that a lot as a business operator trying to do commercial leases when you're asking questions that are very important to you as a business operator.
Right.
And, best case scenario, the real estate agent says, I don't know. Worst case scenario, they just start making stuff up on the spot to get you in there as a client. And that happens more often than not, So I don't want to name any specific names, but long story short, I thought to myself, I can do that. Right? Like,
I felt the same way. I mean, I felt the same way when I was growing up. Somebody told me, "Hey, man, you're eventually," because I went about 7 years without really making any money, basically living at the poverty line in this mortgage real estate business. And somebody told me once, "Hey, man, you're way too smart to like be this broke, basically. You're eventually going to make it." And I did have like an aha moment that just, it just clicked. And I said, you know what, man, I'm better than this guy. There's no way. He's not better at, the mortgage business than I am. And again, I don't know if that was the aha moment for you, looking at people that, you're much smarter. Like you literally, this is what he does for a living.
Yeah.
And you feel like you literally know more than him. Yeah. So you're saying, that was your first kind of experience?
That was the first kind of kick in the butt. That was like the first kick in the butt that was like, all right, you know what? It's time to pursue something new. Just try something new. And it really had, right away a transformative effect on my personal life and kind of just my general happiness and ability to socialize again and date and
you were not married at the time?
No, I was not. I mean, like I said, like at the time it had just been like 5 straight years of like grind,
Yeah.
And so I was about 28 at the time, and it was as I was looking at 30 coming around the corner, I thought, you know what are the changes that I want to see in my life? I want to buy a house. I want to, start settling down, or at least start looking for the right kinds of girls that I could potentially settle down with, sort of thing. And then on top of that, go into a new career that would afford more opportunities later down the line. And so, I ended up working first for a company that specialized in restaurant development, and then started kind of branching out and trying out some other things. Over the course of my career, I've done commercial leasing both on the landlord side and on the tenant side. I've done a little bit of industrial, a little bit of office, even got into film location management for a while. Like I've touched so many different parts.
I noticed, you have a lot of experience, like you just said, in a bunch of different things.
Jack of all trades.
Companies, or
Jack of all trades, master of none. I touched a lot of different things, but I've always been, the type of person, I get very impatient, very restless. The moment I figure out a system that works for something, it immediately loses all interest to me because it's not a puzzle anymore. I like new puzzles. I like new challenges. And I'm sure I would be 10 times more successful today if I just picked one thing and focused on it. But, instead, I kind of touched a lot of different areas. And, that eventually led me to a couple years ago having this realization. It's like, all right, I got to sit down and focus on something, but how do I kind of make the most of the wide breadth of things that I kind of understand how to do. Mm-hmm. And I realized, with a brokerage, I can sort of express all the different sides of my experience and personality through the agents. So I have an agent who is, really focused on residential, one that's more focused on commercial, one that's more focused on investments and things like that. And so, for people on the outside looking in, it seems that each of those people are really specialized and that our brokerage is really specialized for that. And really that's just kind of like one aspect of my personality, like one aspect of my background that is really serving that specific image of our brand.
Now, were these realtors trained prior to joining your brokerage, or do you bring your experience into it and kind of tell them the way that you like to do things?
It's a variety. There's no one way to do it.
Answer?
Yeah, one of my agents, she already came in with like 13 years of experience. So there's like a way that she does things, and I just support that way, right? I've had a couple others that are just starting out, but I like to get people that come from an interesting professional background, right? Like one of my friends and agents came from a kind of a high-end like enterprise sales background, so she traveled a lot. She has international experience. She has friends that buy and trade and invest in real estate kind of all over the world, and so that was like a really cool connection for us to start making there, and she really liked the opportunity to be able to make more of her really diverse background. And I have another agent, or soon to be agent, that is coming from a paralegal background. She's training to be a paralegal right now, and being able to kind of make the most of both a legal background and a real estate background can be super valuable in today's market.
How are you recruiting these agents?
Right now, it's all just word of mouth.
Word
Just social media. Like I'm getting phone calls every once in a while just from people saying, hey, I've been thinking about real estate, or I've been doing real estate for a while, and it's, I feel like my current firm isn't really supporting me in the right way, especially when it comes to technology, right? Like everyone and their moms is saying you got to start a social media account.
Right,
you got to be a big, social media celebrity.
All over the place, yeah.
And yet you ask the average real estate brokerage, all right, well, what are you actually going to do to help me do that? And they might say, oh, we've got a room with some lights where you can do that. That's like best case scenario. I'd say only 10% of real estate brokerages even have that.
Yeah, but they have no idea the amount of content that has to be put out there for anybody to even notice who you are, what you look like, what you do, where all that kind of stuff. It takes. I've been online consistently for a year.
Yeah.
And now we're starting to see that people do recognize me. Oh, you're the real estate guy. You're the mortgage guy. But yeah, you're right. Those brokerages.
Yeah.
And they can't put. they got to put a ton of money behind you too.
Yeah,
And what are you? And it just reminds me of a story recently where a guy left our company to try to go do, because he was promised that they were going to do some type of crazy social media plan for him.
Right. Yeah.
But I don't think he realized how much money it really takes and how much money you're actually worth to this company.
Yeah.
Because they could take any Joe Schmo off the street and do this. I'm not saying you're not special or you're not special, but
Right.
It's a lot of work, basically, social media is. And well, your brokerage itself, Imagination Brokerage, I saw the name and I was like, Richard's got to have a good story behind the. And plus, and then if you guys aren't following Richard, he posts a bunch of like the quirky homes, I don't know what the word is, whatever word you want to use, weird. I don't know. Just stuff that's abnormal.
Right.
That's what it reminded me of, Imagination Brokerage. But if you could share, is there a story behind Imagination Brokerage?
Just the name, like just the branding choice? Or?
Yeah, just the branding or just the name. Where'd you guys get the name? Like, why'd you go with Imagination?
Okay, all right. So that was, I can credit that to my wife, where she and I just sat down and we went over like a list of like 100 different names. Like this is how, because I've done a lot of branding work in the past too, just sort of like as the
jack of all
trades. An entrepreneur, as somebody that gets probably too involved in all of my clients' lives and businesses and all that, like helping them not just in real estate but also doing a little like business consulting. At least that's kind of how I started out. Like I've built brands, designed websites, put together initial teams for companies before. That's like a whole other thing. And what I always recommend for people trying to come up with a name for their business is you just start brainstorming every possible word and phrase that you can think of that inspires you and makes you kind of feel like that's appropriate for your brand. And then you just start running through the list. You also kind of have to like look up what available domains there are at the same time.
I was going to mention that. That was one of the main things when I was with another loan officer, actually still here at the company. We were trying to look up every mortgage company in the history of the world's name. And we finally came across, Fast Action Mortgage. We just like to get things done quick. And I thought it would, we could brand that name easily to the masses. And I wanted another thing I hate for the people out there, but just I wanted to pick basic names like Imagination. It's something people could spell.
Right, yeah.
Because some people come up with these really, phonetically challenging names that are, I wanted to something basic, especially because I was like, we're going to be over the phone, fast action. Yeah, you've heard these words before. So,
exactly.
So anyway, you were just
so
just to finish your story. Yeah.
I never wanted, this is something that I always recommend because again, so all my agents are coming to me basically for marketing and social media advice, right? And like the number one thing I say, if you have a name for your domain, like you never want to have to spell your web domain over the phone.
I hate
that.
it.
Is just the worst thing.
I know. Yeah.
You don't want to have to spell your Instagram handle. You don't want to have to spell things out. Like people get creative all the time, like replacing words with numbers or like shortening things or abbreviating or doing weird spellings of things. Yeah. And man, that is an absolute nightmare to optimize for and market for. So
SEO, all that kind of stuff.
Exactly. Exactly.
I was going to say, I know we're talking a little bit about social media now. I did see that you just got paid by Facebook.
Oh, yeah.
So you just got that check. What was that video?
My check for 35 cents, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah, the social media star, baby.
Yeah, I've been making this. I've been
I saw that video, yeah.
Now that I'm a professional influencer, I will be treating everyone differently now, and I expect everyone to treat me differently from now on.
Yeah, but what was that video about? And how many views did you get?
Sure. So for 35 cents, I think that one was, I actually posted about a scam that was going on that I saw, that I got about 26,000 views on it. And that was kind of one of the first times Facebook was like, oh, hey, you're a real influencer now. Here's, some pennies. Yeah. Long story short, there's, I first got this call like early last year where this woman was saying, hey, I saw one of your videos for a house for sale. Wait, is it for lease or for sale? Uh-huh. And I said, ooh, it's definitely for sale.
Right.
And she said, I just toured it with my whole family. started talking to someone who said they were the owner and that it was for lease. We submitted a rental application. We gave them all of our social security numbers, like me and my 2 brothers and my husband, all of that.
Red flag.
And right, exactly. And then never heard from them again. And then just it wasn't my listing, but like, so sometimes if I'm just having kind of like a light week or weekend, I'll just go and just tour interesting houses around my neighborhood just to, I don't know, get some content out there. And there was, one of these properties was owned and listed by a company called Open Door. Open Door is a big iBuyer. They buy thousands of houses at a time, do sometimes light renovations on them. Sometimes they don't touch it at all, and then they just kind of turn around and flip it, basically. And one of the issues with them is, they do everything virtually because they do it on such a big scale. No one in person ever goes and tours the house with you.
They have agents, though.
They have agents, but like we're talking like each of those agents has dozens of listings at a time. Like it's like a very, it's like a churn and burn sort of business, at least so far that I've seen.
Yeah.
And then what happens is when you're a customer and you want to tour it, you just like download their app and you get a 4-digit code to unlock the digital keypad door and go in and tour it yourself. The consumers do. Yeah, the consumers go and tour it themselves directly. Well, exactly. Yeah. So what ends up happening is, in this situation, is somebody signed up, got that code, turned around and gave it to some people that were looking to rent. And apparently they actually put out like Facebook ads or Craigslist ads for places for rent with the pictures of this house, and then had people come in and tour it. I don't know how many people they tried to scam, but these are the people that got caught. And then when they, just as they were kind of browsing through Facebook again, trying to find the people that scammed them, they just, the algorithm just happened to show them my video, and they reached out to me, and, hopefully I was able to, convey to them fast enough, hey, you got to freeze your credit.
You were actually reached, somebody actually saw the video, huh?
Yeah. Someone, coincidentally, thankfully the algorithm guided them to me. And I'm somebody that was able to kind of quickly give them advice on what to do. Like this was a scam, this is a problem, contact law enforcement right away, contact Experian right away, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And, so I thought that was just a one-off thing. A few months later, it almost happened to somebody else with a different house that was also listed by Open Door. And so at that point, I call Open Door. I start saying, hey, are you guys aware this is happening? They're like, yes, unfortunately. And we're trying to do our best to fix that. We're putting up signs on the doors and in the houses saying, hey, this house is for sale, not for rent. You can also reach out to our complaints department. Our complaints department will cooperate with law enforcement. If the person who was scammed reaches out to law enforcement and law enforcement reaches us, we'll talk to them. Yeah. That sort of thing, which,
it's a lot of work for you, and it's not even your client. It's not, you're just trying to do a good deed.
Right. So finally I thought, you know what, I just got to do a video on this and just try to get it out there as much as possible. I put a few dollars into it just to kind of make sure that as many people as possible could see it, because at the end of the day, consumer education is the only thing that's really protecting you from that. Because especially in today's world, there's a lot, like the apartment where I'm at now, we toured it virtual, like without an agent, like it's very, very common to tour places, without a live person now, because it's so much easier to do everything all virtual, all with codes post-pandemic. And so that's the scary thing. It's like everyone's doing things in a way that's pretty consistent with how everyone else is doing it, except some number of those things are a scam.
Yeah. That's a crazy story, and your story, literally, to piggyback off of that, you just reminded me of a story that we were just going through last week. So if you don't know, like a lot of times, anytime that you're in escrow, there's people that are literally hacking into your emails. I mean, recently, Fidelity's been hacked. I know Loan Depot just got hacked.
And First American.
That was the last one. Thank you. Yeah. The First American got hacked. But all these companies are getting hacked, and the emails especially are getting hacked. So when you're in escrow, a lot of times you'll get an email from somebody pretending to be your escrow officer saying, hey, here's the what, congratulations, you're cleared to close, or you're ready to, ready for wire. Please wire your funds here. Just last week, we closed a client. Thankfully, he got his money back, but about a month ago, this is the second time it's happened to me this year, so I kind of want to put this story out there.
Yeah.
about a month ago, so now we're talking about the beginning of December, he got an email from somebody pretending to be the escrow officer, and he thought it was the escrow officer. They're a family that had all their money tied up into their primary home. They don't have any savings, etc., and they're moving up to buy a new home, and we were helping them buy a new home. And to do that, he got the email from escrow. He took out all their life savings, which is about $225,000. And for this family specifically, it was everything. They literally wired that $225,000 to the wrong account, to like some fake account. That was all their money. They got scammed. So thankfully, this family was in luck. It's funny because they found out. Literally, we called them like 3 days. Oh, by the way, they sent this when we weren't even cleared. The loan we weren't done yet. Yeah. I was like, so we're like, why did you wire that money? Who told you to wire it? And mind you, he didn't even notice. So when when you buy a home, your initial deposit gets wired to the same as your final funds. Right. They didn't notice. They didn't notice. They're wiring it to a different account. And what really bothers me is the fact that these tellers, I don't remember the name of their bank. I believe it was Chase though. Anyway, people at Chase or Bank of America, you guys at like the big brands, the big banks out there, you guys need to call the escrow officer to confirm the wire instructions. Right. Most escrow officers now have the account number blanked out, and then it says, literally, you've seen it, where it says call for account number. Right, yeah. They should do that more, but the problem is he got fake wire instructions. Sure, yeah. So he got his money back, and thankfully, I had to pay I had to extend his rate, obviously. On my dime, we covered it. Sure. And he got into his home, and thank God that happened. Unfortunately, that doesn't always happen. I have another story in probably March or April. A realtor friend of mine, same story. He's going through a lot. He's about to have a baby. Mm-hmm. He wires $25,000. This money's straight up. It's literally in Nigeria now. Wow. You know what I mean? It's out of here. He lost it. He was obviously super upset. But even as a real estate agent, this guy got screwed, for lack of a better term. He got scammed, frauded, and I want the public to know about this, that people are pretending to be your escrow officer. Right. Emails are easily hacked. Obviously, the personal information is really hard to hack. Yeah. Ours is in a secured server and things like that, but your actual just emails and the text messages or the text of your email thread that's going back and forth, they know you're in escrow. They'll put on the subject line the name of the property. Like they'll put 123 Main Street, cleared for funds, please wire, and then you'll open it. And anyway, this is basically, it's a phishing scam. So anyway, just wanted to share that story since you shared a similar story about kind of scamming and things like that. And I don't want to harp too much on it.
No. I mean, listen, like white collar crimes, like old school cons are so on the rise right now. And in a world where everything is done so virtually, it really opens up a lot of opportunity for these, because it's like new emerging technologies, new ways for people to do these deals and communicate and all that. And one of the things that is kind of makes real estate a particular target for this, because when you and I were kind of emailing a little bit about this, I thought, well, okay, I'm not a cybersecurity expert, so I can't really speak on cybersecurity. But what I will kind of bring people's attention to, that may not be apparent on the outside of the industry, is that what we think of as like big corporate brands are often not that. They're usually like in mortgage lending, in real estate brokerage, in title, stuff like that. There's big brands that essentially they kind of work as wholesalers that sort of wholesale out loans. They wholesale out insurance, and then a lot of little offices, small businesses are the ones that are actually, handling the sales, handling the transaction in a lot of ways. And, what the problem is, as you know, so it's one thing to be kind of like young and hip and understand all the technology and all the security aspects of it, right? Mm-hmm. But like lots of people in the industry have been in it for a lot longer than we have, and their processes are archaic.
Antiquated.
You know, and it's very difficult to adapt if you've never been through it. It's very difficult for, you know, an escrow company that's been around for 40 years to adjust to
2024.
Yeah, exactly. And like all the new scams that are happening,
Right.
you know, I mean, like in a world where a lot of them are still doing like paper records and they're just struggling now to try to digitize a bunch of their processes, you know, there's a lot of opportunity there for an unscrupulous person to go in and hack some of these more vulnerable places. You know, they might even call them up and, you know, just start kind of mining them for information, because a lot of these people have been in the industry forever. They love to talk. They'll just sit with you for an hour and a half and just talk to, oh yeah, well, you know, I've been in this business for a long time. You know, yeah, I mean, I guess we did upgrade our computers recently. It's, you know, this sort of thing. Just start rattling off all this information that, you know, that the right or the wrong kind of person could really take advantage of, you know. So, you know, certain things like Loan Depot, I wouldn't be concerned about because they're like a huge like tech giant company, right? But, you know, both Fidelity and American
First
Title,
American,
you know,
they're the biggest title company in the United States, as far as I know.
they can be the biggest, but still they are just underwriting and providing policies for a lot of small businesses, you know? And so in like certain in certain states, title does everything. You know this. But in California,
Even
for
in
instance,
Northern California,
title's a pretty small part of our transactions here. We have like a whole separate escrow system. So it's like in certain areas, like it really is probably going to just come down to the security worthiness of one individual person who's just like a solo, you know, salesperson that's just going around to different offices all the time selling. And that person, you know, are they going to have 3 layers of authentication keys for accessing their email? No. No, not absolutely not. You know, and that makes the whole system vulnerable.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Thanks for that, Richard. Thanks for that. Thanks for that little piggyback off my story. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Well, I want to kind of, you know, head back into, you know, the real estate a little bit.
Yeah, of course.
Well, I know now you're in Santa Ana now. But you had that restaurant in LA. So how did you go? Were you always? How did you go from?
Yeah, of course.
LA to Santa Ana, or LA to Orange County for those of you.
This all started about 3 years ago, a little more than 3 years ago, when my wife got pregnant.
Oh,
you know, that's it.
Wow, okay.
That's it. You know, we had a quarantine baby, and you know, the whole world was unsure of what was going to happen next. You know, so I sold my house in LA, and you know, we first moved in with my mother-in-law for a while, and then that just ended up you know, it was supposed to only be for a few months, and then ended up lasting for a couple of years. You know,
it
and
usually
then
goes like that.
Yeah, exactly. And then, you know, especially since like our baby does not like to sleep. Like she's just not an easy, chill, sleepy baby. She's
a nightmare. Huh?
Takes no. I love her so much. She's such, it's like I always say, all the traits that make her difficult as a child are going to make her an extremely successful adult. Right? Like a lot of the traits that make easy children, you know, like they're just chill, relaxed, quiet, introverted, you know, whatever. Like those generally don't lead to.
Hey, my kids are like that too, so I feel you. Tough beginning is going to be a good end.
Right. Yes.
So,
exactly. So anyway, so you know, my wife's from Orange County, and Orange County is a better place for families anyway. So we basically have you know, resettled down here.
There you go.
And then that kind of made me reassess what I wanted my focus to be in real estate. You know, before it was always in commercial. But if you don't already have all those relationships with landlords and different business operators and all that, and it's a lot harder. And meanwhile, down here, there's just relatively a lot more residential business going. So I thought, you know what, why not throw my hat in the ring, start trying to focus on residential. And then another thing that's sort of an important part of my, you know, current career is when I sold my house in LA, I decided not to reinvest it right away into another house in California. I, again, just out of caution for the market, I thought to myself, okay, let's say we're at the peak of the market. We now know that 2020 was not the peak of the market. It was like late 2020, early 2021, right?
Okay.
We now know that that was not the peak of the market. It kept going up after that. But at the time, everyone was saying stock market's going to crash. This is going to happen. Unemployment's crazy, you know, that sort of thing, right? So I thought, okay, because this is something where if you just Google what do I do with my house when it's at the top of the market? The advice is terrible. There's just a lot of really bad advice on there. So I'm just going to kind of like clear some of that up right now. There's two basic ways that you make money in real estate. It's either with appreciation or with cash flow, right? It's either through like you own a house and it's going to keep going up in value and you sell it at a profit, or you're going to be generating rent revenue off of it in some fashion, and like you take the amount of rent that you get in a year and divide it by the price of the home, you get a cap rate, right? Okay. And so you can either focus on one aspect or the other. I think right now is a great time to take all of your assets that were appreciation focused and turn them into cash flow focused assets. Because let's say the market keeps going up, your cash flow properties aren't going to go up as much as an appreciation asset, but they're going to go up some. Like you're still protected some, right? Mm-hmm. But the big thing is if the market goes down. If the market goes down, you could stand to lose $100,000 on your house in LA, but your income properties in Ohio, my income properties in Ohio, the rents don't go down. No. They're going to stay steady. And, I remember in 2014 when everyone was saying, oh my God, I wish I had money right now. I wish I had cash because I'd be buying up these houses by the dozens. And a
lot of investors did.
Yeah, right. And so, I just wanted to make sure that no matter which way the market went, I would still have cash to be able to act on it. And sure enough, that turned out to be a pretty wise strategy. I mean, do I wish that I don't know. I mean, like you like who could have predicted exactly how the market, would keep kind of going up for a while and then all of a sudden be hit hard with high interest rates and all that.
Well,
so
this pandemic hit and nobody knew what the heck was going on.
Right. Yeah.
So everybody was just, we go to wearing masks. Nobody knows what's going to happen. Everybody stay home. No, nobody knew what was going to happen. Yeah. So what you did during that time is you ended up buying property in Ohio. Yeah. Or it sounds like you bought multi-unit properties.
Yes. Yeah. I bought 2 duplexes for myself there, and then that went well. So I ended up buying a couple more duplexes for other people and for clients. And then that kind of takes us right up to kind of the end of 2022 when all of a sudden interest rates started skyrocketing. And so we just kind of held off for about a year. Just to kind of like see what was going to happen with that. Yeah. And now we're getting back into it now. I'm kind of into my next round of looking for things to buy in Ohio.
Yeah. And I know we were talking a little bit, you were just talking a little bit about the interest rates going up and what happens when interest rates go up. Affordability goes down. Yes. And I know, you sold your property in LA, but here in LA, I know you were talking about, that was one of the hardest things for you to explain to your client is essentially the affordability. Yeah. And that's one of the biggest drawbacks, I guess, of both our jobs right now. Mm-hmm. I mean, wow, what do you think about this affordability crisis that we have? I actually have a stat that I wrote it down here. Yeah. Well, guys, we're in Southern California, but specifically in Orange County. According to Realtor.com, in December of 2023, the median home price was $1.2 million, and that's up 19% year over year. And that's, again, according to Realtor.com, where the average household income, do you know what the average household income is in Orange County? So the average home is 1.2 million. The median, I shouldn't say it's the average. Right, it's the median. Average, yeah. So if you guys don't know what a median is, I mean, sure, yeah. Anyway, it's the middle point. Right, yeah. So what do you think do you know the average household income of Orange County?
Let's see. I think because And
it's the highest county, by the way.
Right. Yeah. For household, I think for individual, it's something like between $60,000 or $80,000 depending on the zip code. And so like household, I think it's like 120 to one.
It shows
something like
it shows 94,000.
94,000.
If you Google household, and I just Googled it like kind of before this segment. Yeah. And that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. Yeah. How are you going to buy? Obviously, okay. So somebody at 94,000, they're going to be I'm talking a minimum down. You're in the 500s.
Right, yeah. Yeah, of course.
You're in the 550-ish range with maybe, a 5% down payment. Right. You're paying $4,000, whatever around that. Yeah. You're not affording a $1.2 million property.
Right. So, yeah. No, of course.
So what have you talked to your clients about
Yeah. And by the way, just to clarify first,
Sure.
cause these numbers sound normal to us in California, but like to people, to my friends and followers, audience in Ohio, like these numbers just sound absolutely insane, right? Like the average house there is like $120,000. And so, to be clear, that 1.2 million is going towards a very average 3 or 4 bedroom house. It's not for a mansion at all, right?
No, in Irvine, in Irvine specifically, we're right here in Irvine, you're getting, I don't know, 16 to 1800 square foot home.
Yeah. Or like a nice new, like 3 bedroom townhouse.
Yeah.
So like not even a freestanding house, but like a nice little townhouse.
Yeah, brand. Yeah. There's actually new ones off of the 405 that are super nice.
Yeah. No, exactly. It's crazy. And, a big part of why I got into this business and have stuck with it for about a decade is to help my friends, help my family, help my peer group to be able to kind of realize some of the advantages that I have in buying real estate. And that's making it really hard for me this year when like I've got a couple friends that came to me and said, hey, we're house hunting right now, and we just found out that the projected home payment for a house we wanted is over $8,000 a month. Like there's no, like what do we do?
Right.
What do we do?
You need to make probably early 20s for the household per month.
Right. Yeah. It's just, so
I ask everybody this, not to cut you off, but I ask everybody this about the affordability. But if you're going to talk to our senators, our Congress men and women out there, what are some options? What do you think? My last guest had a really good option about basically doing some type of shared equity, especially with first-time home buyers who can't afford homes.
Yeah.
So the state of California, they released the Dream for All program.
Okay.
That was something that basically the state of California is going to give you 20% down.
Yeah.
So now your house becomes way more affordable.
Right,
the 20% down, it's essentially, it's a grant initially, but but they own 20% of the home, and they essentially, long story short, they want 20% of the appreciation.
Sure, yeah.
But the problem is that money ran out. That money ran out in 10 days.
Right, exactly. Yeah. That was going to be my point. It's like those things, and by the way, so actually, let me take a step back real quick. So I am right now, we were talking about how I'm starting a new live webinar series this year. And I call the webinar series Home Buying in the Apocalypse. Okay? Because like the idea is, because I know how miserably hard it's been for my peer group, and, like going out there trying to buy right now, it really feels like you're in a post-apocalyptic wasteland. There's nothing available. Everything is just so hard and impossible. And so I have a lot of advice for home buyers in that situation. We can get into some of those things in a minute, but your specific question was about, policies that can try to improve
policies,
that,
programs, ideas.
Yeah, which and then along the way I can also sort of highlight kind of what is working. So yeah, you're right. All that grant money, it looks really good politically, right? Hey, I just scored my constituents, a $2 billion
it was 300. It was 300
right?
million is what
right.
it was.
Exactly. Yeah, 300 million. Right. Exactly. Yeah. Like it sounds big, because you can put out a big blast that says, "Hey, I scored my constituents $300 million." Like that sounds like a lot of money, right? But the problem is that spending it in that way, exactly, it barely helps anybody. It's just gone, right? One thing that people don't talk about enough, unless you're like a real estate business nerd, is the cost of permitting new construction in California. So permitting a new home from the ground up costs on average about $120,000 to $150,000. That's just for permits. That is much higher than it is anywhere else in the country. And
who do we think for that?
Well, right. There's just layers and layers of bureaucracy. Layers and layers of bureaucracy.
The red tape doesn't end.
And it's just like in general, most of our cities are actually very anti-development. Like any mayor will tell you, oh no, we're very pro-development. But you actually get into it. Like mayors are saying that, they're pushing for it because it needs to be pushed. Because, so in Los Angeles, so I don't know the home building game in LA as much as I know the restaurant development game, right? There are any given time between 10 to 14 organizations, individual departments that you have to pass checks with and get approvals from in order to open one restaurant in LA. I have seen hundreds of businesses go out of business before they can even start because of how difficult the permitting process is in LA. Mm-hmm. And every single politician wants to try to cut through that red tape, but there's just so much weight of bureaucracy. It's very, very difficult to cut through all of that. I remember Mayor Villaraigosa's, the 2 mayors ago, made it a huge part of his campaign. He said, "I'm going to slash it from 12 departments down to 2."
Oh, okay.
And that was like one of the things he ran on, and of course he couldn't, right? Of course you can't just get rid of 10 departments.
And then you get rid of all these employees too. You get rid of just cut jobs.
The best thing he was able to do in his time as mayor was to create a new department that is a kind of a development assistance department. It's a bunch of city employed architects or former architects, former plan check people who then act as direct consultants over each project and to help shepherd people through the process. And actually that made a huge difference.
To get your paperwork straight prior to submission.
Yeah. And likewise, they then created on the other end of the spectrum one that's specific for like building major developments like skyscrapers and stuff like that. So
I think
I got to meet them.
Good.
That was really cool.
Yeah.
I was kind of like loosely. I was a little bit involved in trying to do like a mid-rise building at one point, and got to sit down with just an initial meeting with. They had people from Public Works and Building and Safety and Plan Check and Zoning and all that, all sitting around a table together just to talk to me, a lowly nobody. But they wanted to, really make sure that I felt, and my partners at the time felt really comfortable with understanding all the different variables that might go into building a new building in downtown LA. Mm-hmm. And so, I love that. I love that they created that program. It was extremely educational and something that I would recommend to anybody that wants to build buildings to go and participate in one of those meetings. And, at this point, for lack of a better solution right now, maybe if there was, more of a push on a state level to do stuff like that to help housing developers, like people who are wanting to do big housing developments, help them to navigate, all the different, just all the hoops they have to jump through in order to build housing developments. Because it's one thing for major national brands like Lennar or Horton or whatever to go out and build 2,000 homes all at once in the desert or whatever. But if you're not one of those people and you just want to build 20 houses,
right?
And doing what's called urban infill, you're already in an existing city, you just want to build more houses to serve the people there. It's extremely expensive and risky and difficult. And, just removing some of that risk, that is what's going to actually decrease the cost of housing in the long run.
Yeah, actually, I really like that answer. Just removing the red tape, making it easier for developers to build. Because, we've had obviously supply issue now for, X amount of years. How many? Maybe at least since the pandemic.
Yeah.
At least since 2020, we've had a supply issue. So anyway, just to kind of go back to that Ohio topic a little bit. Yeah. The supply, I was just talking about a supply issue. You ended up going to Ohio to purchase those duplexes. Did you do any burrs out there? I know you did flips out there. Were those properties turnkey?
No, I was. My original intent was to burr them. That gets into kind of a whole other side of the topic, but I'll explain really quickly what that is. That burr is a term that was coined by the Bigger Pockets podcast. And
I was going to just go into that. Yeah, you're a listener. I'm a huge listener of theirs, and that's actually something that we have in common. Again, sorry to go back on to cut you off, but is it sounded like that's how you got some actually of your real estate knowledge, just from YouTube University, Bigger Pockets. Yeah.
Right? Yeah. No, specifically, I don't know if David Green will ever hear this, but he's the co-host of the Bigger Pockets podcast, and he wrote a couple books. He wrote Long Distance Real Estate Investing, and he wrote BRRRR, which is buy, renovate, rent, and refinance, right? And he kind of was my early real estate hero. He was one of the first,
nice.
kind of voices in my head as I was kind of embarking on the transition of going from just kind of like a real estate, owner and broker into actually becoming a landlord and trying to invest out of state. Yeah. And, so yeah, I kind of owe all of that to him specifically.
That's crazy, actually, that it came off of you were reading books, but just dude, YouTube has changed a lot of people's life. I mean, I know I listen to them as well, and they've taught me a lot, even though I'm in the same business. And actually, I know he's opened a mortgage company too.
Mm-hmm, yeah. He's done. I mean, he's also like a super successful real estate agent. He's written a great book on basically being a great real estate agent. I've read that book as well. So I've read like 3 books from this guy, and I think that's more books than I read from any one individual like business person.
That's crazy, yeah.
I recommend that tremendously to anybody that comes and works for me, because I want people that work for me, even if they never go and do that kind of investment work themselves, they need to understand the mindset. They need to understand the numbers. They need to start thinking of financing as not just this one limited part of this one limited activity of just buying a house, but it's actually a tool that you can leverage into, greater and greater wealth for yourself.
Right, because you will run out of money. I tell people all the time, even all your rich guys, you will run out of money.
Right, exactly.
So leverage is super key. But we were talking a little bit about the Ohio property. Were they turnkey properties in Ohio?
Sorry. But the original intent was to BRRRR them. It was to buy fixers, renovate them, rent them out, and then refinance. And then the last R is repeat. Right. And, so I had them all renovated, and I owned them all cash, right? And then all of a sudden hit the financial, like the interest
rates.
rate, skyrocketing. And so, the refinance part in the BRRRR process, like it's supposed to be amazing. You pull out more money than you initially put in, basically, so that you become the bank. You're acting as somebody that's able to go out then and then just keep repeating it over and over and over again. Literally infinitely, if you're good at what you're doing, if you're good at what projects you're picking and how much you're spending on, like all that.
Acquiring is key.
Exactly. Yeah. Like if you're acquiring well, renovating well, if you're doing the whole thing right, you pull out close to how much you put in, and which makes it infinitely repeatable. You become the bank, basically.
No, totally.
And unfortunately, that's just not really a viable strategy at the current interest rates. I was only able to pull out maybe.
Is it because you don't want to be underwater?
No. It's not just that. It's like in terms of like the actual if you look at the DSCR, I don't want to get too technical. On a podcast.
I talk about DSCR. I know what it is. Well, basically, what he's trying to say is that the properties are not cash flowing. So if the properties can break even or cash flow, it's much easier to get a loan.
Yeah, I know. I like to be clear. Like I'm getting really really good cash flow on these. Like my properties are at like a 10% cap rate. But even then, I guess like the people who were underwriting it were just really, really conservative on it and gave me only half of what I was asking for.
Yeah, call me.
And so, no, I know exactly. Yeah. And because they're more than paying for their mortgages easily.
So what was your issue during that finance process?
Because the interest rates on the DSCRs are like 8.5%.
Right, they're high.
Something like that.
But if you're at 10 cap rate, you should cover that.
We'll have more of like the in-depth conversation about later. But long story short, I ultimately decided to just pull out like about half of the value on each one. And a year ago, ultimately decided to, instead of using that money to buy more real estate, I just invested that in my brokerage. Right. Now I kind of like refinance the second property, and I am going to go out and buy more now. Okay. So,
You're from Ohio. Is that why you're kind of, or you were just born?
I was just born there. Yeah. No, the whole process of why Ohio is kind of a whole other story. Like I knew I wanted to invest out of state. No, I guess I was open to California too, but I just knew, like knowing as a real estate agent, like how hard that would be. But I started just looking at like top 10 lists, top 10 places to invest, top 10 places for Airbnb, top 10 places for, XYZ, just all these different things. And I was making this huge spreadsheet of every single article of just like listing every single city.
Yeah.
And then once I kind of narrowed it down to like my top 10 cities, I just went on Facebook and started seeing how many people do I know in each of these cities, and I was just calling them.
Wow.
Just saying, so I called my friend in Dallas and said, hey, what's investing in Dallas like right now? Called somebody in Tucson. I was like, hey, what's Tucson like right now? Like, what are the rental rates? What's going on there?
Right.
And then eventually I called a friend of mine who, he was from LA, good friend of mine for like over a decade. And he relocated back out to Cleveland just to kind of be close to family during the pandemic. And, he just sort of like, I don't know, decided to stick around. And his brother owns property there and needed some help managing it. And so my friend went out and did that for him and was like, oh, I actually really like this. Like, this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And so then he bought his own duplex to like as an investor. And then he ended up getting his real estate license. And so, it just like the timing just worked out. His interests and what he was doing, just like the timing was just so perfect that, and one of the lessons that I learned, thankfully early on, was don't try to be too smart. Don't try to go in and get the absolute best deal in the absolute best location, like in a vacuum, if you don't have people there that you trust. The people are more important than just the black and white numbers. Your actual understanding and your level of sophistication and understanding of or mastery of kind of the fundamentals is more important than just like raw numbers, because I've seen a lot of people who did things based on just numbers who then quickly discovered all the mistakes, all the problems, all the ups and downs of like, a place that looks like it does really, really well on paper. You suddenly realize, oh, wow, crime is through the roof. Property maintenance is extremely expensive. Like just all these different issues that you run into that end up making that into a huge headache. That's why the numbers are so good, because all the more sophisticated investors decided not to invest there.
You have a really high cap rate, and an investor once told me that with the higher the cap rate, the worse the area.
Yes.
The more crime, the more, the more bad things that can happen in that area. So
Exactly.
is the area that you're in Ohio? Is that the case? Is that why you're getting? Are you in more of a lower end area, whatever you want to call it?
That's a great question, and and this gets into something that I love getting into in my real estate practice is like really talking more about cap rates, just because it's something that's not part of the day-to-day mainstream parlance of
it's not
most people.
I mean, it's an investor type of talk. It's not something we talk about daily, no.
Right. So, because what's great about cap rate is that, it takes 30 seconds to define it, right? Just like your annual net operating income divided by the price, right? Mm-hmm. Super duper simple. That took me 10 seconds to define it.
Right.
But actually understanding how it works, what it means, because if I'm looking at something, I know nothing else about it, and someone just says it's a 7% cap rate, I immediately can categorize it into approximately where it is in the country, what type of thing it is, what some of the potential risks are going to be, and the pros and cons of doing it,
wow.
Right? Like assuming that number was rationally set and not a lie or not somebody just being
inflated,
a weird idiot. Yeah. It's you're absolutely right that, if somebody comes to me and says, hey, I have something that's 8 to 10% cap rate, my immediate thought is, well, there's something wrong with that.
It's going to be a lot of work
to
get that 8 to 10%.
That's a problem, right? There's some sort of problem here,
yeah.
Right? And I'd say a few different things are kind of driving that. So in Ohio, cap rates can just traditionally been really high for many, many years. That could be for a variety of reasons, right? There have been certain areas of certain cities, so like the east side of Cleveland, certain parts of Cincinnati, certain parts of Dayton, like a lot of the major cities there have traditionally had high crime rates just in certain areas. Mm-hmm. Likewise, the weather can be really harsh there. Like some people just don't like having to deal with snow for 4 months out of the year, 4 to 6 months out of the year,
Yeah.
It's not like that everywhere, but just in some places that, it can be like that. And, so overall, in general, because the Midwest is generally very cold and kind of in the middle of nowhere, I say that with love, like not a lot of big white collar employment drivers there. It has a tendency. So like Cleveland has typically been an affluent blue collar community.
Yes.
So everybody there is involved in skilled manufacturing jobs.
Right.
Which actually keeps everything. So on the west side of Cleveland, you actually have like, traditionally it's been where all the engineers are, where all the some really famous manufacturing companies and great inventors and all that are from Ohio. Like they used to say that, like you look at the Wright brothers, you look at a lot of the early 19th century or late 19th, early 20th century inventors. There was a saying that used to say, if you want to be a great inventor in America, you have to be from Ohio.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't want to misspeak about like the long list of all the inventors that are from there, but there's like a lot. If you look at like who were the top big names in inventing new engineering feats in the early 20th century, you'd be surprised by how many of them were from the same neighborhood in Ohio. So anyway, that there's still a rich history of that in the Cleveland area, and and now that like a newer generation is starting to move in, new businesses are starting to move in. I was looking there and I immediately started recognizing the signs of gentrification that I've been kind of trained to recognize, and realized that like, wow, like this is going to be the hot new like place to be in the Midwest. Right. And so far I've been right.
So you think Cleveland's it, huh?
I think Cleveland's
it.
Yeah. Actually, you know what? If anything, it's actually Cleveland's. It's already too late to get into Cleveland. Just in the last 3 years, cap rates dropped from like 8 or 10% down to like 6%, which is now prices have gone up like crazy there,
and rents haven't followed. I mean, that's what would constitute a cap rate.
Right. Yeah, so, exactly. And
but rents should creep back up. But
they're
again,
going.
remember those markets are the markets that do see the dips.
Yeah.
Because this year we did have nationwide home prices have been up.
Right.
But a little pocket like a Cleveland could have been the pocket that went down. If you lose a big manufacturing plant with 3,000 workers, that whole area is.
Yeah, individual neighborhoods may have gone down a bit, not in the areas that I've invested in, but, certain other areas. One of the things you really want to watch out for is over the last couple of years, investors have been priced out of a lot of like the prime investment markets. And so they've gone out into the suburbs hunting for better deals.
Right.
So for instance, a lot of people like blew up Indianapolis like crazy. And so, a bunch of the late tag-alongs ended up looking at other suburbs. They started, a bunch of people went to Terre Haute, Indiana, which I say this with love. My brother lived there for many years. Terre Haute is like the property values doubled there, and they shouldn't have. Like there was no real support for that.
Right. No jobs out there.
And,
no jobs moving into there at least.
Exactly. And so likewise, after a couple of years, when the interest rates skyrocketed and investment money dried up specifically, the property values in Terre Haute dropped in half. Mm-hmm. So just like the bubble went up and then just completely burst all at once within a couple of years.
So what are you telling your clients now in terms of, real estate investing? I know you're in Ohio and in Cleveland. You kind of said the bubble may have, or the phase may have passed, but is that what you're telling people, or are you kind of still?
I said, I'm gearing up to go in
back to Ohio?
Do more. Yeah. What I'm doing though is instead of burring, I'm actually just going to be doing some fix and flips.
Okay.
Just because again, I think that like until financing gets more affordable or until something like more significant changes in the market, I actually think, pardon my friends in finance, I want to just do things all cash. So I'm actually pooling cash together with other investors and just going in as joint ventures to buy up these properties. And then we'll either fix and flip. In some situations we might buy and hold and then just wait for kind of a favorable time to refinance it. But for the most part, I think, we're planning to do 10 fix and flips this year. In that area, but we're gonna have to cast a wider net. Like before, I was within like the same 3 streets in a suburb of West Cleveland. Now I'm looking as much as about 45 minutes away from.
But how are you getting all this? So you're just reaching out to friends and family to pretty much do a joint venture with all the cash that you guys have compiled?
Essentially, yeah. I mean, like after doing this the number of years that I have, I've come across enough people that, have saved up a lot of money specifically to try to buy themselves a house in LA,
right.
And then they can't. They just can't.
Mm-hmm.
And so, because I've got a friend right now, he's got over $400,000 saved up, you know, and he thought that would be enough to buy a house, and it's not.
That sucks.
You don't know it. It sucks a lot.
No,
Yeah.
it is enough.
Yeah.
I don't want the.
No, I know. Yeah.
That is definitely enough to buy a house. That's more than enough.
Right. Yeah.
But I don't know what this person is looking for.
Yeah, like depending on for what he's looking for in the area he's decided to kind of limit his search to, it's not enough, you know. And I kind of told him, you know, this kind of goes in line with, I guess, one path of the advice that I'm giving to people in this situation is resetting what you think are your needs in this situation, you know. Like, it is better to buy something that may not check all the boxes for you than it is to sit on it for another 10 years, right? Like
sitting on the money. So you're saying just to have an asset instead of just kind of hanging out with your money.
Exactly. Because here's what I told him, right? And I said, I don't mean for this to make you feel bad, right? I'm not trying to like beat you up over this. But I am 100% certain that 10 years ago, you could have bought a $300,000 or $400,000 condo that would be worth $800,000 today. You know,
of course.
So you could have spending the same amount of money you've been spending on rent. You could have made an extra $400,000 and saved $400,000. Now you'd be sitting here with $800,000, like in a combination of equity and cash, that you could use to buy your first income property and then, you know, like supplement or replace half your income. You know. I told him, I said, again, don't feel bad about this. I'm not saying like, oh man, beat yourself up over not doing this in the past, right? I'm more saying don't miss out on this opportunity in the future. Like, you still have the opportunity to get into the game and start playing it. But you got to start. You got to start. Warren Buffett, greatest investor in the world, he says, you lose more by not being in the game at all than by, you know, trying to get into it and timing it a little bit wrong, you know? Like,
no, totally.
Yeah.
I'm with you on all of that.
Yeah.
I know we're kind of brushing up on a little bit of fix and flips out there. You have a crazy story you mentioned. So like when you're fixing and flipping, first of all, a lot of people don't know a lot of the costs that go into this stuff. Again, earlier we were talking about how permitting and just building a house in general, but fixing and flipping is completely different. It's just usually, or sometimes it's light rehab, sometimes it could be heavy rehab with permits and things like that. But I mean, I guess, first we'll go into, I guess you have a story that I guess cost you quite a bit of money.
Yeah.
I don't know where the story was based out of. Obviously, you could go into it, but you're
I'll go ahead.
The sewer story.
Right. Yeah. So okay, a little kind of backing up a tiny bit. So in Southern California, anytime you buy any kind of house, you gotta inspect the sewer lines. This is for a bunch of different reasons. One, you know, when a lot of these, especially the Spanish-style homes, were built originally, but a lot of homes in LA and kind of all over, they were built with clay drain pipes, and those clay drain pipes that run to the sewer, they just have all sorts of issues now, 50 or 80 or 100 years later, where because of seismic shifting from earthquakes and, or just kind of like degradation over time, they might crack, they might break. And, worst case scenario, it breaks so much that it's completely clogging and breaking up the line. But though that would be pretty obvious, right off the bat, like your shower would back up and all that, right?
All that, yeah.
But in a home inspection, you might not catch that. All it takes is a pretty small crack for plant roots to start sensing that there's water in your sewer line and start sending roots down to drink it up. And that is a problem that won't be noticeable right away, but that within a pretty short period of time can get completely out of control, and you have to dig out an entire tree and spend a lot of money rebuilding your entire sewer line just to fix it. Thousands and thousands of dollars, right? So as a trained and experienced real estate agent here, I always recommend, get a sewer line inspection, like scope the whole thing. Costs a couple $100, and it's absolutely worth it to know what the situation is. In fact, part of my style as a real estate agent is because I'm pretty handy. I know how houses are built. Like, I know there's just a lot of stuff that I'm very comfortable with that most agents aren't. And I just tell my clients, be prepared to spend about $1,000 on inspections. That's way more than most people will spend or most agents will recommend. But you will make that money back when I take this huge stack of inspections, go to the seller and say, hey, there's $40,000 worth of stuff that needs to be fixed here.
Right.
Let's negotiate a credit.
Hell
You know,
yeah.
let's negotiate a price reduction, right? And we don't expect to get all of that. We'll usually, but on average, we usually get about $10,000 in a price reduction,
Depending on the damage to the
$10,000 or
property.
$15,000. Which is that's a good amount of money. I mean,
It
you're
is.
spending $1,000 to make $10,000 or $15,000 back. That's not bad.
Yeah, no.
That's not bad.
And
So,
how much did that end up costing you, that sewer incident?
okay, all right.
Yeah.
So I say all of that to say that I should have known
Yeah.
when I was buying my first investment property in Ohio to do a sewer line inspection. And I honestly
'Cause you've
don't
already
remember.
experienced it in the past.
Yeah, because I've
Yeah.
experienced it in California. Like I know this stuff, right? I have a experienced real estate
Mr.
guy, right?
I like that.
I do videos on this stuff for a living.
Yeah, and it's-
But one little detail that may be important to note is that we went and toured these houses, or at least my agents and people that over there went and started touring these houses on the night that my wife was in labor. And
Oh,
so
wow.
I'm sending out like text messages and all that, being like, "Oh yeah, just like film this thing, shoot me the video. I'll look at it later. I can't do a live video tour right now or whatever."
Right.
And then like that whole first month, I'm sleep deprived. Like my
Yeah.
hours are all weird, and so like I don't know what someone said. Like I'm assuming that somebody at one point was like, "Oh, you know what? All the inspectors are busy or whatever. We're trying to do a 2-week like fast close. It's not worth it to have somebody come out." Or like, "Don't worry, there's no trees, there's no bushes. Like there's nothing in the way. Like there's nothing that would grow roots."
Right.
Like this is not like California where there's like a whole palm tree in your drains pipe system. This is a place where it snows all the time and there's like nothing growing here. Like, don't worry about it. That sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
And fast forward like about a year and a half, and all of a sudden, like one of my tenants is saying that their sewer is like backed up to 2 stories of their house. Like just completely backed up
What?
sewage, right?
Okay,
And I'm like,
okay.
oh man, like it is a catastrophic sewer line problem, right?
So you're saying the second story is even back?
Yeah, exactly,
Oh,
yeah. And so, it was like backed up and like draining into the first and causing like massive damage, So they dig out and they ended up finding, I don't remember how many feet long it was, but it was like a bundle of roots that was like just massive.
Right.
That was in the sewer line. And then not 6 months later, we found it was a property with 2 different houses on a lot that each had their own separate drain system.
Now, this is
And,
during your flip, or this is...
This is after. So this is like I've already renovated it. I've got like great tenants in there.
Sorry. This is when the tenants are in the property.
Yeah,
Okay.
tenants are in the property.
Okay.
They've been living there happily for months, and then all of a sudden we start having these plumbing problems.
Okay.
And then it's like I spend like $10,000-$15,000 on like repairing all the damage to their house and replacing the whole drain line. And then
man.
not 6 months later, the same thing happens with the front house on the same lot.
Oh, same thing.
And so
the whole house was just... Roots were going in and out of that place,
Yeah,
huh?
exactly. And I go in and I spent for that one we caught it earlier, just because I had already dealt with this with the other one. So I think I only spent like $6,000 or $7,000 on that one. So yeah, so far my biggest, most expensive mistake ever as a real estate investor was on my very first house there. Like overspending on like a bunch of stuff, getting bad contractors and all that. But like the single most expensive thing was that sewer line problem, because I know that could have been prevented with a $200
Sewer inspection
So-
during escrow.
Yeah.
That happened to one of my clients. One of my clients in Fontana, he bought a house, literally the same exact thing, but he bought the house from a flipper. And I don't know if this would be a question that you could answer, but he was asking me, so when flippers like skimp out on things, or when they don't disclose things
Yeah.
like roots or things like that, can you ever go back to a seller and be like, hey, you didn't disclose X, Y, and Z? And for example, this was the sewer. The sewer.
Yeah,
They didn't disclose the sewer
Right.
to us. I guess, how would we be able to prove it, first of all?
Only if you can
Right.
prove that they knew about it. Only if you can prove that they knew about it, which is why, like I said, when I'm representing a buyer, I'm very aggressive with all the inspections, and then I show it to them. I email everything to them, because that puts the seller in a sudden position where they now know all the problems, which means that they would have to disclose all of those problems to
Yeah.
somebody else. you know.
And when is it the city's
you know,
issue? So it's still your issue, I guess, up until what, the sidewalk or something?
Yeah, it varies on the municipality, but typically sidewalks are owned by the city. So all the way up to the sidewalk is you
gotta
and
get
then
him.
right past there is city. Although even then, I've noticed. I mean, there's still a lot of things that you will still have to correct, even just kind of from sidewalk to the actual sewer in the middle of the street.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's anyway.
Yeah.
That's a good story that people can learn from.
Yeah.
That sewer inspections, it sounds like it's super important. Something actually I didn't even
Yeah.
know about. I never even,
Sure.
I already know a lot of my investors and a lot of
Right.
especially my buyers aren't doing it on their, because
Yeah.
most of my clients are just buying standard residential single family homes in the suburbs. So,
Right. Yeah.
I know that they're almost never doing that sewer inspection.
Oh gosh, it's so important. It's such a big repair expense if you don't do it. And and by the way, I want to share that story along with an important lesson again that I got from David Green from one of those books that I read. He said, expect that on your first time out, doesn't matter how smart you are, how experienced you are, you're going to make a ton of mistakes. Expect that that's going to happen. Like, he urges us, and I urge you, stick with it. Because once you've learned from those mistakes, once you've developed the good connections, you want to, you want to keep building those relationships. You'll have created really good relationships with contractors, plumbers, inspectors, agents, property managers, all that. You have to keep building that network and keep going in order to actually start having the really good deals and the really good returns. I have a number of friends who've told me horror stories about their first time investing out of state going badly. And then what do? They go, oh, it was Las Vegas's fault that this turned out badly, so now I'm going to go and invest in Texas. Oh, that didn't work out, so now I'm going to go invest in Iowa.
Yeah.
And I struck out 3 times. I guess investing's just not for me, and then they give up and call it a day. Right. That's the wrong way to do it. You got to find your area and you got to focus in on it and build your network and build your trusted group of people there, and build your own knowledge of the individual streets and neighborhoods there.
Totally.
Because you're not gonna kill it on your first one, and then you maybe if you're lucky and good, you'll break even on your second one, and then on your third and fourth and fifth, man, you're really gonna start to make money.
Yeah. I mean, I always preach a long-term game in real estate. Nothing ever happens on the first try.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I appreciate all those stories. I want to just talk quickly. I know we talked about your brokerage a little bit, but now, you've completely transitioned. You're an owner broker. You're no longer the restaurant entrepreneur. A daily life. I want to just talk really quick. What's the daily life for Richard Wayland? Richard, what do you, just a day in the life of Richard, basically. A real estate agent, entrepreneur, investor, all that.
It's funny. I joke a lot now about how, I spent 15 years as an entrepreneur and, consultant, and 10 of those years working in real estate, and all of that knowledge adding up now to being a really mediocre videographer. I spent probably 80% of my time being just okay at shooting videos and scripting stuff and directing other people and going and doing video house tours and all that stuff. I have so many friends, especially since I lived in LA for many years, and I went to USC with one of the best film schools in the world. Most of my friends are incredible filmmakers. Even the ones that didn't go to film school are incredible at shooting video of all different kinds. And so I early on really aspired to produce things at a high level. And, and I still remember getting so angry about the first few videos that I made, just looking and sounding so bad.
You'll get better.
That I didn't want to release them. But yeah, you get better. You keep, you get better at it. You got to stick with it, just with anything. And now, I really spend a lot lot of my time on it. I might be overrepresenting it a little bit. I do spend some time being a real estate agent, but
it sounds like you want to master it.
Yeah.
And you didn't want to. I know we talked earlier about the VAs. Maybe you go to the VAs. Just film it and go to the VA. So that's. I mean, the daily. Are you currently prospecting heavily? in your business, or you kind of? It sounds like you're doing these videos just a ton, and you're not.
Right? Yeah.
Because
no.
with these videos, you need a way to capture information to spit it to another software to be able to
Right.
actually, So
Right.
Is that what you're doing, or?
Gosh, all right. So there's a lot of different ways to kind of look at this, right? I don't have a typical day right now. Like the short answer is I don't have a typical day. Every day is like a new
That's good. That's
challenge,
fun.
a new path.
Yeah.
Different things that I'm trying. I'm always experimenting with something, and I can have broader goals. Like for this year, I want to So a lot of my business up to this point has been driven by trying to market to my peers, right? Like trying to market to other millennials, which is why I do so much I do pretty well on Facebook Shorts and that sort of thing, and Instagram. But those primarily target millennials. And by and large, the vast majority of millennials can't really afford to buy anything right now.
Southern California.
Right? Not in Southern California, not in this market. So, I'm doing kind of two big pushes, right? One is encouraging my millennial friends to either invest out of state or buy in the suburbs around in Southern California, or to pool money together and buy multifamily properties using certain loan tools that actually make things a lot easier for them. And we can talk more about this. Like when I have you in my office to
we'll talk
do
more
an
about the
interview,
programs.
I really want to talk about FHA loans, VA loans, USDA loans, some of the weird, crazy little tips and tricks to being able to get people into a property, even if it's not exactly the type of property they originally thought they'd be getting into. So yeah, that's one angle of how I'm approaching it. And then the other one is targeting more content at basically my peer group's parents. Because I hear enough about some of the issues that they're going through. They want to know, how do I transfer this wealth to the next generation? I want to downsize. How do I downsize in a market like this where, potentially I could be paying more money to live in a smaller house, right? Like that sucks.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Lately, one thing that I've been recommending to kind of an older clientele, because I've been getting a lot of questions about, hey, can I buy a bigger property that I can turn into a family compound? Basically, I have kids, I have grandkids that can't afford to buy in those homes. Yeah, it's a multi-generational home where, I can have one kid, live here, one live there, have everybody under one roof or in a property that has, multiple units. Like in general, because like one of my agents is, targets more of like of a senior crowd, and they're asking just very different questions from what my peer group would ask, right? Like they're asking, hey, what really are the ins and outs of getting a property with a big driveway where I can park an RV and have my grandkids live in an RV, that sort of thing. Like that's a really good question. Like in Los Angeles, you actually can't do that. Inland Empire, you have to do that. You have to check with your local municipalities to kind of make sure that you're able to do stuff like that. It's like little questions that I wouldn't have thought would be like a hot topic that I'm now getting all the time. And so that's like a big push now, is trying to more target that content and also try to bring that content to where they are. In many ways, like literally, like physically, like I'm doing these things that are going to be both live webinars and also that I can present as live presentations in front of a bunch of different groups. That's
cool, man. You got a lot. You got a lot going on, and every day is different. So that's beautiful. I mean, it's nice to do. It's nice actually to not. Sometimes it's nice to not have every day be the same. To have something new every day. Yeah. Like sometimes the mundane things of life. It's enjoyable to have something new. So, I commend you for that.
Thank you.
And I guess quickly before we leave, just. Yeah. Richard, who's influenced Richard to get to where Richard's at? Do you have any influences, mentors, or anybody because, I know you were talking about a little bit about the bigger podcast.
David Green and Bigger Pockets,
Bigger Pockets. But other than that, I mean, has anybody else kind of been there for you to guide you? Because I believe that everybody needs a mentor. Everybody needs a guide to get to, do you have anybody that comes to mind?
And this one? I mean, I really would, could give a bunch of shout outs to a bunch of people that I've worked with over the years. One of the first people I worked with was Leonard Lane, who of Empire Realty Group. He is just such a brilliant real estate broker and introduced me to like a much more sophisticated way of looking at real estate in general and looking at financing in general. I would really like to thank my friends Zishan Mohammed and Nap Da. They run a little kind of like creative real estate brokerage that I would call it, because like they're the ones that do they do co-working, they do film location management, they bring this really like crazy guerrilla style digital marketing strategy into a really stodgy old industry. So they've inspired me a lot, and then there's like certain things that I consume. I really love the Bigger Pockets podcast. I listen to the Real Wealth Show, which is one where it was started by a woman who I think it was like her origin story is like 10, 15 years ago. She was an average American housewife who just decided to start interviewing people in real estate so she could learn more about real estate, and now she's one of the most sophisticated and trusted real estate investment advisors in the country. And I absolutely love that podcast as well. I think it's like Bigger Pockets is good if you are looking for kind of like mindset stuff and kind of want to look at, for lack of a better term, like a very male perspective into it. And then Real Wealth Show, I really like recommend that because like I feel like that one is just really empowering for women and something that is really talking about they just get into a lot more nitty-gritty stuff in there as well. And they also I love they get into people who are more like emerging. So for instance, with Bigger Pockets, like you'll most frequently get guests who are already, they have $100 million portfolio, right? And so they're really talking about how do they keep motivated to like keep making those calls every day. I have 1,000 doors.
How did I get? I know some of their thumbnails,
exactly.
Things like that.
But it's also really, really important to hear the story of, I'm a stay-at-home mom. And I managed to develop a portfolio of 8 income properties, and this is what I did to get there.
That's beautiful. That's a beautiful
I
story.
love those stories. Yeah. Those are so great and so relevant to most people. And so I try to actually, a lot of the things that I kind of repeat and reference and all that are actually from those types of podcast interviews.
Okay, cool. So those those influences in your life kind of helped you to get to where you're at. So anyway, I appreciate you sharing. I appreciate you kind of shouting out all the people that helped you get to where you're at. So really quickly, I'll wrap it up here. Again, Richard, I thank you so much for spending the time that you've spent with me. Hopefully we can do it again. I'll come on your podcast and we'll chat it up. It sounds like you got a lot going on. And again, guys, Richard Wayland, Imagination Brokerage in the Orange County area. If you're looking for somebody reputable and honest, you heard his story here. Thank you so much. Thank you, Richard.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Rich.